Do you have an interest in the compassionate release program and how an individual can be in prison, file a motion in court, and go to serve the remainder of the prison term on home confinement under compassionate release? Well, then you might want to follow along on the Michael Cohen case. I am Michael Santos with Prison Professors. I try to provide this type of content every day to help more people understand the system and to understand what they can do to get best outcomes. In order to get best outcomes, you really have to understand how the system operates. And so today I thought I would give you a third video on Michael Cohen because, again, he is in the news. I just flew home from New York yesterday. I've been away traveling, for it feels like almost 2 weeks, so it feels really good to be back in my home studio. But I definitely want to share with you how to find information on this whole compassionate release program and what happens if a person comes into the crosshairs of the Department of Justice. So this is the news article that I saw that came out that our prosecutors are objecting to Cohen's release from prison and they deny retaliation claim in a court filing. What happened, as described in the two videos that I've previously filmed on this subject, is he was on home confinement. We don't know what happened, but one day when he went to go for a routine interaction with the probation office, something happened and he was taken into custody. There was a lot of speculation that he violated the terms of his release. We later saw some news articles, as shown in the second video that I published, indicating that that wasn't the case at all. He refused to sign away his constitutional right to be able to publish. As a result of that, the Bureau of Prisons or the Department of Justice decided to put him back in prison, where he has been for almost 2 weeks now. Then they filed a motion called the 2241, arguing that the government violated his constitutional rights by retaliating against him and putting him back into the prison system, even though all he was doing was exercising his constitutional rights. And I showed in the previous video that the Bureau of Prisons has a policy that allows people who are in custody to write manuscripts without staff supervision. They don't have to notify them, they don't have to say anything. But Michael Cohen did apprise the staff of what he was doing, yet when he was on home confinement, they wanted to make a condition that he could not publish a book, and he alleges that that is a violation of his constitutional rights. He has the right to talk about what he experienced as President Trump's lawyer, but the government is saying that's not the reason at all that he's going back to prison. And so I thought I would show you how to find that kind of information. So the place you go, and you can see me typing it into the URL, is pacer.gov. And if you pull pacer.gov up, you can search for a case right here. Am I logged in? I don't think I'm logged in. I'm going to log in right now. Paste case locator. And there I'm already logged in, so I'll log in. And I'm going to go here to find parties, because I don't know the name of the case. So the last name is Cohen. First name is Michael. This is a civil case, case information, court type. It is a civil case, and I happen to know that it is in the Southern District of New York, so I can scroll down here, and I'll see New York. And this is really important information for anybody that wants to do litigation on their own or learn about how the litigation process works before there's the case. Okay, so now I see the case numbers right here. So I click that case number, and then I want to pull the docket report. And what this docket report does, I hit run report right there. What this docket report does is it shows us all the information on the case. So the name of the case is Cohen versus Barr. These are the attorneys that are part of the case. It was the American Civil Liberties Union that brought this motion on his behalf. I think the lead attorney here is E. Danya Perry at Perry Guha, and there's her contact information. This is a suit against the respondent, Bill Barr, also against the respondent, Michael Carvajal, against respondent, James Petrucci, and then there's an amicus curiae brief filed as well. So who these people are is Will Barr, of course, is the Attorney General of the United States. Michael Carvajal is the director of the Bureau of Prisons, and this is the warden at the FCI in Otisville. So good information here. So the previous video already covers a lot of what the 2241 looks like, and the links to that are on the description below if you want to see that. I think that what we're looking for today is the memorandums that the government is finding so that we can kind of learn a little bit about what they're objecting to. And so I see that motion right here, memorandum of law in opposition to the emergency motion. And if I click that, there's the motion itself. So we could actually see what the government is objecting to, what they're responding to. And they go through a rather formal procedure here with a table of contents, and then before they'll get to a preliminary statement, which is right here. And on this preliminary statement, what we're seeing is that they're objecting not, well, they're saying that they're not objecting to him writing a book. What they're objecting to is that he was antagonistic to the probation officer, right? Petitioner objected to the requirement also of employment. He didn't want to have to ask for permission on where he would work. He didn't like that they were refusing him permission to interact with other convicted felons, and information about how he could shop for groceries and so on. He also found it confusing. But the real crime here in the government's eyes is that he simply wasn't complacent. Oh yeah, there's another weird one here, that they objected to him wearing electronic monitoring. What's important to realize here is that if you're being released from prison to home confinement, there are going to be restrictions because you're still in custody. This didn't end your sentence. Filing a motion for compassionate release doesn't end the sentence. The person is still in the custody of the Bureau of Prisons, and the Bureau of Prisons can impose conditions and controls. And I don't know how they're going to get around with telling him that he can't write a book, but they don't want to argue that here. The government doesn't want to argue that here. They want to argue that he was not compliant and that he was a difficult subject matter. And they have the discretion. So maybe his lawyers can prevail by talking about the constitutional issue, but what they can't do is expect the government to roll over. The government is always going to file a motion like this, and I think that what you're going to see next is the defense attorneys are going to respond to what the government is saying, that he was returned to prison for no reason other than he failed to act compliantly with the probation officer. He failed to accept the conditions of his release. And he is sentenced to the custody of the Attorney General, and that gives them the authority to confine them wherever they want. The problem is that he's a very, he's a red hot defendant, where you got the President of the United States who's very upset with him, and you got the Attorney General Barr doing basically whatever the President of the United States says. That comes down lower, and there are problems. So it's important to realize that I think for an individual who's in custody and has the ability to serve it at home, to recognize there is a choice that you have to make. Do you want to fight for everything that you want to do, or are you willing to pay the price? When I was in prison, it was different for me because I was doing 26 years. So it didn't matter where they put me, I was going to publish books. This guy's really serving a relatively short sentence, and not only is he serving a relatively short sentence, he had an opportunity to serve that sentence at home. He had to make a decision. Do I act confrontational with the Bureau of Prisons when I'm already home, or do I fight for my rights, in which case I may be litigating from the segregated housing unit? Maybe in his case it makes sense to pay the price because he wants to publish this book before the election, where he may be able to sell 1 million, 2 million copies and provide some financial stability for his family. I can't make that decision for anybody. Nobody can make that decision for anybody else about what is the important thing to do. But if you are going to litigate against the Bureau of Prisons, it's really important to understand they have a lot of ways to fight. There are a lot of ways to skin a cat. They don't have to argue on the grounds of the constitutional grounds of they're violating his First Amendment rights and stopping him from communicating. All they have to argue is that he didn't get along with his probation officer, and we didn't like the antagonistic way that he approached us, and so we're putting him back in prison. We don't have the ability to supervise him in this manner. And then it's going to be up to a judge, and my guess is that the judge is going to say that he can serve his sentence wherever he wants. I'm not a lawyer, and the judge may very well rule that they're violating his liberty interests, or they're treating him differently because he's a superstar and a high-profile person. I don't know the answers to those questions. I just wanted to show our audience here at Prison Professors how the government generally responds when somebody brings what I would consider to be a legitimate complaint, because if it's true that they're blocking him from filing, from writing a book while he's on home confinement, that would seem to conflict with their policy statement, which encourages people to be able to write manuscripts. I went to the hole a lot of times for publishing. You just kind of have to know what comes with these challenges, and then sadly, Michael Cohen is learning that right now. He is going to, it's my understanding that he will have a court appearance later today. It's 5:38 in the morning in California. He's going to Southern District of New York, so it'll happen sometime in the next several hours. And when I learn about it, I'll probably publish an update. Thank you. Really hope that you will subscribe to the Prison Professors program and support our sponsors at cbdtv.com. They're the ones that give us the resources that allow us to publish every single day. Thanks.